Hey, welcome back to another episode of the Racing with Ryan podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Stevens. Got a good show for you here today. Our final off weekend for a little while. Finally get to talk some new Smyrna racing on next week's show. But as promised, we are back this week to go over all the things that happened at Rockingham and give you some commentary on some of the big stories that have come out of the Rockingham weekend. Yeah, we're going to touch on Cleetus McFarland. Yeah, we're going to touch on Corey Heim and everything else. Before we get into the show, I do want to thank our great sponsors here at the Racing with Ryan podcast, including our friends at Paramount Medical Billing. They were the primary anchor sponsor to come on board here this year. Plus, we have Ken Copley helping us out. We have Dual Lawn and Tree as one of our sponsors, F&F Racing, and the Splish and Splash Swim Program, all sponsoring the show. So we thank you guys for the support, and we thank all of our great listeners as well for coming back. I know, some of you are probably skipping these weeks due to it being kind of NASCAR heavy, but I'll tell you, I am excited to get back to what we like to do here, and that's talk about good old-fashioned short track racing on Saturday nights. And I think we're going to have a great show to recap on next week's show, as the Sportsman Easter Hop 60 will be the main event on Family Fun Night. Should be a nice little field of sportsmen, starting to get some pre-registrations coming in as the track has offered some drawings that we're going to do on Friday afternoon. So by the time you hear this, if you don't have your entry in, well, you may miss the drawing, but you can still come and race, of course. Pre-entry not required, but it is highly recommended. That way we can promote you and help get some eyeballs on you, the racers. For 2 weeks, I've had registrations open, and they're finally now just starting to roll in. So appreciate the ones that have registered. We'll get you up there, get some social media posts for you. And it should be a lot of fun on Saturday night with the Sportsmen. Plus, we're going to have E-Mods. We're going to have Bomber A's, Bomber B's, 602 Modifieds, Mod Minis, and Spectator Racing. It is an action-packed night. It's going to be a long night. Plus, we're going to have an Easter egg hunt and autograph sessions going on for the families to have some activities during the intermission portion between the heats and the features. So should be a really, really fun night. Like I said, very much looking forward to get back on the mic. It feels like it's been forever. Luckily, I've had the show to keep me occupied and keep the voice nice and warmed up. And voice is feeling, be honest with you, voice is feeling the best it has in about a year or so. I feel like last year I struggled with the voice. This year, feeling a lot better. So definitely excited to get back out there. Zach Miles should be joining me once again in the booth. As long as nothing comes up with him, we should both be able to bring you a nice, fun evening of commentary to go along with the great racing that we will have. So let's go ahead and get into what I want to talk about on this week's show, and that is the action that happened at the Rockingham Speedway. I talked with Matt on the hot mic today. If you want to know what happened at the Auburndale Speedway, we'll go over, I do have the results pulled up. We'll talk about the Auburndale results at the end of the show. But if you want some in-depth information on it all, you can check in with the hot mic, and Matt will let you know everything that transpired on Saturday night there. But we do have action from Rockingham, and that's where I do want to start this week's show. Before I just got lost in my train of thought there, I asked Matt, what event would you get rid of to get Rockingham back on the Cup Series schedule? Because I'll tell you, after watching the last 2 years of Trucks, Xfinity, and Arca, it's a travesty that we are not racing regularly with the Cup Series at this speedway. I'm glad we have this weekend to resurrect it. But man, I'll tell you, to not have regular Cup Series racing at the Rock. We haven't raced there since 2004. What a great race that was. If you don't remember, that was the Carl Long flip down the back straightaway. Robbie Gordon almost flipped too. And then Matt Kenseth held off Casey Kane in a thriller there. And then we just stopped racing there because politics and markets and that kind of stuff. So I just think it's an absolute travesty we don't race here anymore, and it should come back. Matt said get rid of the Pocono weekend. I said get rid of the first Phoenix racing weekend to accommodate Rockingham back on the schedule. A lot of people say maybe it'd make a good all-star. It'd be better than Dover. I will give you that. But we did have Arca. And real quick, Tristan McKee won that race. Boy, it was Arca East, by the way. And I don't think a lot of people quite understand that or get that. But that is like the regional side of Arca, not national. It was not an Arca national race, which in my opinion it should be. Honestly, it should be an Arca National East combined event to add just a little more pomp and circumstance to that one. But the race was fine. I mean, you had 4 or 5 really good cars, then you had maybe 6 decent ones, and then a bunch of junk boxes running around at 20, 30 mile an hour off the pace, which made for some hairy moments. Thankfully, we didn't run over anybody or get anybody hurt. We did have some incidents. Max Reeves knocked the wall down at one point. It wasn't Gavin Bushell crashed pretty hard at one point, but Tristan McKee dominated that one and won at Cleetus. We're going to talk about him a little bit here in a minute. He had a respectable run, a lot of attrition. Kind of, I would say realistically at a 6th to 8th place car, but he ended up bringing it home in 4th position. So took advantage of what the what the race brought his way and had a respectable run. Unfortunately, that did not parlay into his race on later on in the day with the Xfinity Series or the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series. I'm still don't have that one down pat. I'll tell you, this race did not play out how I expected. I think last week I told you, bank on Justin Allgaier. Justin did just fine. He finished 3rd in the event, but it was actually Corey Day who would sit on the pole and win the first 2 stages, leading 118 laps, basically half the event, before getting stuck back in the field. Had a loose wheel, had to come back in for service on the car, and was stuck back in traffic and did not have enough time to make his way back up through the field. And as a matter of fact, I just want to see when he did lose the lead here. Corey Day, lap leaders, Corey Day. Boy, yeah, right after the 2nd stage, he lost the lead, and it kind of became the William Sawalich and Brent Cruz show, and Sawalich would end up going on to lead the final 79 laps of the race to pick up his first career win, kind of out of nowhere. But if you've been watching and paying attention to some of the up-and-coming drivers through the late model ranks, through Arca, through stuff like that, you know that William Sawalich, he's had some good success, especially in the late model ranks. We remember him during the World Series at New Smyrna, driving for Donnie Wilson, of course, and having some good runs. So, of course, that's a name. I had to learn how to say it, so that's a name that's stuck with me, and I've been keeping tabs on him and struggled last year. Definitely was kind of a disappointment. Definitely underachieved in the 18 car for Gibbs, which is not expected, but I got to give him credit. Started 14th, right mid-pack, kind of, back half of the competitive field, if you will. Finally parlayed it into a good run and took advantage of the misfortunes for some of the other drivers and parlayed it into his first career win. So definitely not a driver many people had pegged to get their first career win, but he got it done and on a weekend where a lot of eyeballs were on him with the Cleetus effect and the Xfinity Series kind of being the top bill for the Easter weekend. I feel like a lot of people will now remember the name William Sawalich if they had really not been paying attention before. So he gets the win. His teammate Brandon Jones tried to make it interesting there at the end, but couldn't close. He finished 2nd. Justin Allgaier continues his hot start to the season. He finished in 3rd. Raja Caruth continues to have a pretty good rookie season. Finished 4th in the 88 car. And then Carson Kvapil, almost a bit of a demotion for Carson Kvapil this year. Not full-time in the 1 car. He's got a full season signed up for, but not full-time in the 1 car. He's really making the most of it. He finished in 5th. Sheldon Creed was 6th. Taylor Gray 7th. Parker Retzlaff continues to impress. Talked a little bit about him last week and just want to follow up on that. Apparently, Viking Motorsports bought a lot of the Colleague Racing Xfinity stable, so that explains some of the uptick in performance and the, it's what's helped support this impressive start for Parker Retzlaff for sure. Ryan Sieg finished in 9th. Good to see that team back inside the top 10. And then Corey Day won the first 2 stages, had that problem late, and had to settle for 10th position. Outside of the top 10, here's some notables for you. Austin Hill, 11th. Sammy Smith was 12th. Harrison Burton, 13th. Let's see. Everybody pretty much down here would be where you expect until you get to Brent Cruz and Jesse Love. Brent Cruz led 30 laps early in the race, faded late to 26, 2 laps down, and Jesse Love had some mechanical problems to fight through, 27th. 2 laps down. So a couple of guys you'd expect to be up in the top 10, perhaps not finding their way there. Some of the other notables, Patrick Staropoli in the 48, a lot of talk about Nick Sanchez, who he took over for in the 48, not able to be to the racetrack. That team shutting down for the week, maybe for good. Patrick Staropoli, his replacement, 34th. Kyle Sieg, 37th. And Sam Mayer out early with an engine issue, finished dead last. So most everybody else where you would expect them to be, kind of in the running where you would think and finishing where they normally do. The other big story in this Xfinity race, of course, was Garrett Mitchell, who finished 32nd. That is, of course, Cleetus McFarland. Had a great run in the Arca race, and a lot of people expected him to come in here this weekend, underexperienced and kind of be in the way or cause havoc. There was a couple of moments where he had some questionable moves on the racetrack. Early on, tried to go 3 wide, got sideways, did everything but spin out. Ended up 32nd, 6 laps down to the leaders. Not great, and that is a Richard Childress car. So that is a car that, if they would have put Austin Dillon in there, you're getting a top 10. You're going to be running top 10 speeds, fighting for a top 10 finish. If they had put, I don't know, let's just go Ty Majeski from the Truck Series, you're probably getting a top 15, top 20. You're not going to be 6 laps down, spinning it on your own. The one incident that did bring out the yellow that Cleetus was involved in, pretty odd-looking spin in turns 3 and 4. It looked like the first time you plug in the new NASCAR video game and take it out, take your car out there with all the stability settings off, and you finally get up to speed and go into turn 3, and the car just goes everywhere but where you think it's going to go. It kind of looked like that. He lost it in the middle of turns 3 and 4, then drifted down on the apron, then spun back up the racetrack. Thankfully, there were no other cars to be around him to get taken out, and no one hit him. But it just looked like if I let my daughter take my video game controller and try to complete a lap. That's what it looked like. Just the way the car spun. It didn't look like your traditional racing spin. It looked like somebody that didn't have experience. And I believe that Cleetus Garrett, he's got good car control. He just give him seat time, and stuff like that isn't going to happen. I feel like he's a good enough driver to where he can get the hang of this, but he just needs more time. He's comfortable in that Arca car. He needs another season running, 8 to 10 Arca races. I know he's not committed to this full time, and that's fine. He doesn't need to be. But, give him another 8 to 10 Arca races. Give him 8 to 10 Truck Series starts. Let him get some experience on the 1.5-mile tracks and some of these faster high bank tracks. I want to see what he can do at Dover in a truck, New Hampshire, things like that, where he can learn to feel these cars. I just don't think he has a feel for this style of racing. He's a YouTuber who plays with cars and makes wild, crazy stunt videos. It's not something I'm into. I don't get it. I don't get the whole hoopla behind his whole character. I think it's obnoxious, to be honest with you. I understand that a lot of people do like it, and that's fine. I appreciate the attention it gets to NASCAR. I don't think he was ready for this, and it showed on Saturday on the racetrack and with his experience and his finish as well. And as a matter of fact, NASCAR has not. His plan was to hopefully run the Talladega race here in a couple of weeks. And of course, if you don't know, Talladega is one of the biggest, craziest tracks we run on, and a spin like he had at Rockingham at Talladega could cause 20 to 30 cars to be piled up and potential calamity and bad things happening. So NASCAR has decided not to approve him at this point to go run Talladega. He is still approved to run tracks a mile and less in length, so basically short tracks. He's, in my opinion, I feel like he could have used another couple of more truck races. He got 6 laps in at Daytona before wrecking out. He just needs some more seat time in NASCAR style, the upper levels of NASCAR. A few more Arca starts, a handful more truck starts. Get him that experience. Get him comfortable. He's comfortable in your Crown Vic. He's comfortable. He's trying to get comfortable in late models now, which I feel like he just needs to run more stuff like that, not joke stuff. And I don't want to clown on Crown Vic drivers. I think the Crown Vics put on a great show, but his style of Crown Vic racing and that Ultima 5000 and all the silly stuff he does, that's not it. If you want to go NASCAR racing, I think I just want to compare him. I'm going to use Zachary Curtis as an example because Curtis is a great standout in Crown Vic racing and stock car style racing. I feel like Zach Curtis, if he put his mind to it and had the opportunity, could work his way up the ladder. But Zach Curtis would need to go do the same thing. He'd need to go test in Arca, get approved through testing in Arca, go run Arca races, 10, 12, 15 Arca races, and then run a handful of truck races on all different size tracks. Get that experience before moving up. Zach Curtis can't just come in and decide he wants to go run Talladega Xfinity. And people look at him and go, well, who the hell is Zach Curtis? Some local Florida short track racer? Who cares? That guy's he's a scrub. He doesn't deserve this. It should be the same for Cleetus. Yes, he's an internet sensation with all the clout in the world. He gets all the clicks. It's good publicity, but he's at the same level. He might be under the level of, you could say the same thing about somebody from the North's favorite short track racer. Tons of experience in short track racing, but they can't just expect to go run the Daytona 500 next year. They've got to work their way up. And I'm glad to see that NASCAR is looking at this objectively and saying, okay, we've seen it and we need to see more. And I respect that. I'm glad they didn't just give him a pass. If he had come out here, finished top 10 and run well, I could understand that they might think differently, but I'm glad they looked at his performance and said it wasn't good enough. And it's okay that it wasn't good enough in the first race. The first time I do a lot of things, I'm not very good at it. Just, you need some experience. I don't want to sit here and say, I don't want to see him in another Xfinity car. I'm not going to root for him, and I'm not going to start chanting all his catchphrases and bald eagle this and that if he does well. But I'm just glad that based on his showing on Saturday, he's got more to prove before he can move up to the next stage of the ladder here. You must first walk before you run. And I'm glad that he's going to have to do that. And honestly, it'll pump up some of these lower events as he starts to entering. Hopefully it doesn't discourage him, but I always say if you let somebody else's decision discourage you from doing what you want to do, then I don't think that you ever really wanted to do it. It's like, the short trackers who get upset when a night doesn't go their way and they blame everybody but themselves and then they don't want to come back anymore. It's like, when you let that mentality take over, you're never going to win. You're never going to get over it. You're always going to look for an excuse and you're never going to conquer. So hopefully he puts his head down, takes a step back before he takes another step forward, and does well. The only thing, I'm not, like I said, I'm not a big fan of his character. I don't follow his YouTube. I can't even say I've watched one of his videos. I have zero interest in that kind of goof stuff. And if that offends you that I call it goof stuff, I'm sorry. I like to watch, when it comes to goofy stuff, it ain't, car racing stuff ain't goofy to me. I take that very seriously. So that's where I draw the line. That's why I classify it the way I do. Take offense if you will, but I just want to clarify where I'm coming from before I get to this point. The thing that I didn't like from his interviews when he was done racing, and I heard them kind of while I was up doing things, so I wasn't sitting there laser focused on these, but the fact that even this came through when I wasn't giving it my full attention bothers me. So what he would say after his interviews, he did it in the Arca, and he did it after the O'Reilly race, he would say, well, I didn't do anything. I just got in there and turned left. It's like, no. Don't say that. That makes it seem like what you're doing is not a big deal and it's easy and anyone can do it and that it's a joke to him. It got under my skin because we have tried so hard in the sport of auto racing as a whole to get away from there's just a bunch of rednecks going to turn left. And I can tell you, NASCAR's a lot more sophisticated than just a bunch of rednecks. Hey, listen, some people involved in racing, you might look at them and say, yeah, they're kind of rednecky. Okay, that's fine, but honestly, they're street smarter than a lot of people. They might not be able to go sit down, read a book, and take a test on it, but they can make cars go fast, and guess what I can't do? Even if I read the book on it, I can't do that. So that bothered me a little bit. I get it. He's trying to make it seem like, oh, well, I'm not that impressive. It's not about me. But like with all these people that he's bringing in to watch, them hearing him say, oh, I just sat there and turned left, they're just going to think, yep, this is stupid because he didn't go through any jumps. He didn't jump through any cars on fire. I didn't race a bunch of his buddies in Crown Vics or Ford Rangers or Altimas. Just a bunch of stupid people turning left. This is boring. We're not watching this unless Cleetus is in the field. That, to me, is the wrong message, and that is the thing that bothered me. And I wish he didn't say that. I I do appreciate that he was, other than that, humble about his outing. And I'm interested to see where it goes next, but he does need more experience. And I'm glad he is first going to have to take that step back, and he will not be in the field at Talladega. All right, so that was one half of the weekend at Rockingham. The other half of the weekend, other than Arca, the other big half was the Truck Series race. So let me pull up those results. This race happened on Friday afternoon. I did watch this after I got home from dropping Peyton off. I came back and watched this, and not surprised by the result whatsoever. So we'll talk about the truck race here real quick. We'll go take a look at the points and also talk about some of the, not controversy, but the big story that has now been brewed up after the conclusion of the truck race. This 200-lap race was dominated by one driver leading 178 laps, but I'll tell you, it was not easy at the end. It was a very good race at the end, very exciting finish. Kind of a race that was playing out like you thought it was going to. Not a whole lot of cautions, not a crash fest, a very respectable race by everybody. But I'll tell you, with about 10 laps to go, things were getting interesting, and actually it was about 20 laps to go. Things were getting interesting, and unfortunately we had a caution with about 28 laps to go, and it set up a stage for a really interesting finish. And believe it or not, this race had a last lap pass for the win. With just a handful of laps to go, Corey Heim started to fade. Guess he had some issues with the tires or something was going on with the car or the truck. And Caden Honeycutt, in the truck that Corey drove last year, came by and passed him, coming to the white flag. And then there was a big scramble through lap traffic. Caden Honeycutt had a big move down into turn number 1, didn't really force the issue, kind of backed off behind traffic, then got stuck behind one of the lap trucks, I think the Taylor Gray car, and kind of drug him back, and Corey Heim was able to power back up and, with an ailing truck, hang on and win the race. So another win for Corey Heim. I think it's his second or third of the season already, and he hasn't run all the races. We're going to talk about that here in a moment. Pretty exciting finish, pretty exciting race, and Corey Heim wins it again, leading 178 laps, but had to go for that last lap pass to get the win and use he got through traffic so well, whereas Caden Honeycutt kind of got boxed in and didn't, in my opinion, could have forced the issue on Corey Heim and come out a winner, but did not. So Caden Honeycutt will still be searching for that first career win. But Corey Heim, your winner for the truck race at Rockingham. Honestly, go back and watch the last 10, 15 laps of this one if you haven't already. It was pretty good racing. Heim the winner, Caden Honeycutt second. Lane Riggs, a quiet day in third. Stuart Friesen had a good run in fourth. Good to see him back on the mend and running well after a scary crash a year ago in that dirt modified. Grant Enfinger was fifth. Sixth for Tyler Ankrum. Corey LaJoy driving the 10 car now. We haven't really talked about this too much. Very disappointing the way things went for Daniel Dye and his behavior and all that and the things that he said. Out of the 10 ride, Corey LaJoy is in. That came down right after we recorded last week. He'll be in the 10 car now full time. He is championship eligible. So I'll use this as a little precursor to what we're going to talk about in a minute. Corey LaJoy, not a truck regular at the beginning of the season, but now he is championship eligible because he's declared for truck points, even though he hasn't raced the other two races or the other few races, but now he's eligible for the championship. So just keep that in mind for what we're going to talk about in a minute. Ty Majeski is 8th. Jake Garcia is 9th. Cole Butcher rounds out the top 10 in this one. Some other notables. Justin Haley, 12th. Tanner Gray, he was the one involved in that last lap skirmish there with the race leaders. He finished in 16th. Tough day for Ben Rhodes. He finished 2 laps down in 18th. Not what you would expect out of one of the ThorSport machines. Luke Baldwin, 21st. Daniel Hemrick struggled, 24th. Minnie Tyrell, 25th. Brandon Queen was in the playoffs after we talked about that last week. He finished down to 27th, so I'm sure he's going to be out. Frankie Muniz, 31st. Carson Hocevar, I picked him in our friendly game that we play on the hot mic. He finished 34th. And Chandler Smith was one of the top finishers in the field. Got disqualified for height infraction at the front end of the truck, and he was DQ'd and drops down to 36th in the standings and loses the point lead. So That's what we're going to talk about now is the points. Remember how I just talked about Corey LaJoie? He did not run all the races to start the season. And I just want to go see how many starts does he have? Where's the 10? Daniel Dye. Nope, that's the wrong 10. Disable that. Corey LaJoie is 32nd in the standings. He has made 3 starts, but he has now just declared points for the trucks. He can't go back as he declared, I think, Cup maybe. Since he's now declared for truck points, he's only got 30 points down in 32nd. So we go to the top of the standings. Your point leader is Corey Heim, and he's only made 3 starts. So listen to this. Corey Heim is your point leader. Now he's tied. He is tied with Caden Honeycutt with 190 points. Obviously, 2 wins to 0 gives Corey Heim the tiebreaker. He was 8th a week ago. We talked about that. He's not championship eligible. He is your point leader. This is a driver who is declared to run for Truck Series points, and it's been known that he's not going to run a full season this year in any of the top series. He's just going to be kind of cherry picking, but he is declared for Truck Series points. He is the Truck Series leader, and he is not championship eligible. But yet Corey LaJoie, who picked up a ride because somebody made a silly mistake, didn't run 2 races just like Corey Heim, and has now declared for truck points. He's eligible. He didn't even have a ride. He wasn't even planning to do any of this, but now he can try to claw his way into championship contention, or at least make the chase. But Corey Heim, your actual point leader, cannot, because he had 2 races where he didn't run. And he is now, to clarify, he does have other races that he's not planning to race. But I mean, in this playoff or this chase format, I just feel like the run every race thing is not necessary. For the longest time, we had the win and in, get you in the playoffs, and we had, the stipulation you had to run all the races or get a medical waiver or whatever it was to qualify. And that's to prevent like what we saw with Shane Van Gisbergen back in 2022 when he had a one-off race and he shocked the world and won. That didn't automatically qualify him for the playoffs. That makes sense. With a win and in format, the running every race or, plans to run all the races and being full-time was necessary to avoid, just throwing a ringer in the car and them taking a playoff spot. That made total sense. But now, with it being solely based on points, if you got a driver that misses a race or 2 because they don't have sponsorship, but is doing well enough, now, I mean, that's just a travesty in and of itself, but if they can do well enough to get the points required to be in a qualified position to make the chase, let them run for it. And then, say, hey, you have to run all the races. You have to, prove to us that you'll be in all the races. Obviously, medical things notwithstanding, if something happens, you can't control that. But listen, if Corey Heim can qualify for the playoffs after not running X amount of races, and let's say, the numbers are going to take care of themselves. Obviously, if he continues to miss races, he's going to drop down the standings. He can't sustain this lead forever. But let's say he does qualify 8th, 9th. Obviously, he's going to be behind in the standings because he wasn't up. He doesn't get those bonus points for being in the top, couple spots. But let him get a deal done and let him go run for something. The kid's in a lame duck season. Let him go have a reason to run. But yet, Corey LaJoie, who didn't have any intentions of running anything or being in any kind of championship mode, is now eligible to do so because he's quote unquote full time in the thing, in the 10 car. Just I feel like NASCAR should take the stipulation away. No waivers are needed. If you're able in Cup to make the top 16, you're in the chase. If you're in the top 12 in O'Reilly, you make the chase. If you're in the top 10 in trucks, you make the chase. Put a deal together, go run the championship, and see what you can do. That's my hot take for the week. I just think when you compare Corey Heim and Corey LaJoie right now, it's just silly. And the fact that your actual... And listen, it's not like Corey Heim declared truck points or Cup points, and everyone's like, oh, he would have the most... No, he declared truck points. Let the man run for the title. If he can, even with missing races, hang on to the top 10, let him go for it. There you go. That's my hot take. Let's, speaking of points, let's take a look at the top 10 in Truck Series points after Rockingham. Corey Heim is the point leader. Caden Honeycutt, the co-point leader, is the de facto chase point leader right now in the 11. Lane Riggs is third. Chandler Smith with a DQ dropped 3 spots down to fourth. Hey, NASCAR has everything correct this week. Ty Majeski is fifth in the points. Gio Ruggiero sixth in points. The Christian Eckes machine down 1 this week, 7th in points. Ben Rhodes down 1, 8th in points. Stuart Friesen up 4. He has worked his way into the championship conversation. He's 9th. Justin Haley is 10th, the only Ram in the playoffs right now. Then Tyler Ankrum, technically 11th in points, but would be, since Corey Heim is not eligible, Tyler Ankrum would be the final driver in right now as things roll. And I said last week, keep your eye on him. This could be the weekend he works his way up into the conversation, and sure enough, he has. The big loser this week, Andres Perez down 6, Brennan Queen down 6, Daniel Hemrick down 4, and out of a playoff spot for now, but not out of contention. So we'll continue to watch. We're not going to talk trucks and Xfinity points every single week, but we'll keep an eye on it. Back over to the O'Reilly series here as soon as it'll load up, if it'll go. Come on, computer. This computer is a literal dinosaur at this point. Been having lots of problems trying to get through this episode with the equipment. But anyway, Xfinity points, remember, top 12 make the chase. Right now, Justin Allgaier with a huge lead, 126 points up on Jesse Love. Sheldon Creed's third, Austin Hill fourth. Corey Day up 2 spots into the top 5. Carson Kvapil and Sammy Smith both down 1, 6th and 7th respectively. Brandon Jones is 8th. Parker Retzlaff still hanging on to 9th in points. Roger Carruth rounding out the top 10. William Swalich with the win, up 3 positions to 11th in the standings. And right now, the final man in the chase is Taylor Gray in the 54. He is up, 30 points. 30 points on Sam Mayer, who dropped 2 spots and is out of a chase spot. Other drivers hoping to make it in. Ryan Sieg, he's 14th, 15th for Brendan Poole. Jeff Burton back in 17th. So Brent Cruz, remember, he hasn't run all the races, but he's championship eligible. He wasn't even old enough to run all the races, but he's championship eligible. There's so many holes in this Corey Heim thing. I'm going to make a list and post it on Reddit so I can go get flamed later. And anyway, silly stuff, but that is NASCAR for you. Fun weekend at the Rock. Definitely enjoyed getting a chance to watch all of that. Going to Bristol this weekend. I told you I would hold the NASCAR fantasy predictions. Not that I'm sure at this point all of you listening for the fantasy segment are not taking my advice, and it's probably good that you don't. But I feel like Bristol's pretty easy. Denny Hamlin, Kyle Larson, Christopher Bell, Brad Keselowski. I like Chris Buescher this weekend, but I would go Ty Gibbs. I would put Gibbs in there as well. So most of the Gibbs cars I think are going to be pretty good. Larson, Logano, those guys are going to be pretty good. So that's what I would say as far as Bristol goes. I think Kyle Larson is going to win. I think he's the man to beat. Just read that there's a little bit difference in the tire compound to make it not as susceptible to cold temperatures, to where it's not just going to fall apart if the track doesn't take rubber. I'm not sure if that's a good thing or not. I'm not sure it's going to matter. The temperature is going to be in the 70s or 80s, which makes me worried for the race. However, I complained about this last year. NASCAR made no changes to the aero package a year or so ago, and we got one of the worst Bristol races of all time. This year, they have made some changes to the aero package, and we've got the less downforce, the less diffuser. We've got the tires. The tires are the same as last year. A little more horsepower, so maybe that'll change the game. If the tires don't wear and the horsepower doesn't make a difference, we're going to be in store for another pretty lousy Bristol race. But if we do see tire wear, and I'm not saying tire blowouts. We don't need people blowing tires, hitting the wall, causing cautions every 5 laps. But we just need tire fall off, comers and goers. We need the tires to wear out. I'd like to see them wear down to the cords after 30 to 40 laps. I'd like for those that have good tires for it to matter. Those who have worn their tires out, I want to see them fall back. That's what I want to see in this Bristol race. And we'll see what we get. But we will, of course, talk about it next weekend. Plus, we'll recap the Easter Hop Family Fun Night featuring the Sportsman 60. We have the NASCAR trucks on Friday, O'Reilly Series on Saturday, and Cup on Sunday. Plus, whatever else might be happening in the racing world that needs to be talked about. We'll talk about it all on next week's show. Real quick, we'll try to get through this here. Do want to talk about the racing from the Auburndale Speedway. Matt gave an in-depth recap of everything, but real quick as we close out, the super late models were in action over there with twin 50s. They had 14 cars show up, so not a bad turnout on Easter weekend over there. No surprise, though, Jonathan Guy and Cody Stickler would take your wins. John Guy winning the first one over Cody Stickler and Ron Lofquist. Wayne Smith fourth in race one. Chase King in the 46X rounding out the top five. Chase King had problems with his own car, and Rex put Chase in the 46 Cody Stickler's Pro Late, which he parlayed into a couple of good runs. Then in race number two, Cody Stickler would get the win over his teammate John Guy, and Chase King would finish third, so an all top three for the house team. And then Ron Lofquist would come home in the fourth position, with Dylan Williams rounding out the top five. And sorry for the intermittent audio clicks there. I don't know what's going on with this thing, but we are going to try to power through and finish off the recording here. And we'll diagnose going into the week. Let's see. They also ran Pure Stock. Shout out to Michael Bauer in the 87, who got the win over Daniel McLean and Larry Welter Jr., James Wright third. Uncharacteristic finish outside the podium. He finished fourth, and Ronnie Hurd rounding out your top five in a field of 15. I sure do love me some Pure Stock, so it's nice to see a good little field over there. They also ran Legends cars, where Cameron White took the win over Jesse Martinez and Gerald White, Nicholas Newsom, and Gerald White Jr., the top five. So the White family all getting inside the top five there. Nice field of, 16 Legends. Pretty good stuff there. Let's see what else they were able to get in here. Mini stocks were in action. Eddie Davis got the win over David McCaig, Robert Collins, Dakota Cushion, and Dan Hardman, the top five there in a field of 11. Bandoleros were in action. Field of 8 cars. Keegan Chance got the win over Joseph Weiss, Kelly Kirby, Peyton Bailey, Rocco Garano, the top five for the Bandos. Bando beginners, they had 5 of those. Cole Chance, the winner, over Leighton Parsons, Charlotte Wallace, Ella White, and Kane Skinner. And that would be the night over at Auburndale. Again, make sure you tune into the Hot Mic most Wednesdays when we're all able to get together. We've all had so much going on. One or multiple of us have not been able to make it on much of the year, but you can tune in on most Wednesday nights where we recap all the racing action. Myself, Steve, and Matt usually on board to do that. And if you want to go back and watch it, you can get the full recap from Auburndale. But there's a little snippet of what went down there, and we appreciate you tuning in. Sorry for the audio issues here on this week's show. We'll get that ironed out for next week, and we'll be back to recap all the racing action from New Smyrna, Bristol, and wherever else action crops up in the racing world. So again, thank you all for tuning in. Thank you to our sponsors, Paramount Medical Billing, Splish and Splash Swim Program, Do All Lawn and Tree, F&F Racing, and everybody else. Ken Copley as well, and everybody else who supports the show. Make sure you guys get out there, support your local short tracks. Come on back next weekend for more of the Racing with Ryan podcast. And with that said, y'all take care, and vroom vroom on.